Hey, this is David. Listen, in a previous video, I talked a little bit about getting in front of the camera. And in my case, it was really a change to the way I sort of approach some of my interests. I have an interest in business or, marketing technology. And I've read a lot, seen a lot of what people have written, or I've actually watched a lot of videos, heard a lot of audio for people that talk about business or business psychology or whatnot. And in this case, this is just my opportunity to kind of flip the camera, to get on the other side of the camera, and instead of being somewhat of a consumer of all that content or ideas or the conversation, to be more of a producer and participating in it. But you can really look at it in a higher level and kind of change the way you look at your interests as well, in how you approach it. And it doesn't even have to be associated to a camera. It may just be a thought of, hey, what is it something that I really like to do? Where are some of my interests that lie? And how can I kind of change the way I interact with them? A lot of times people will always say that if you're a husband and wife that have 2 kids and you have a hobby, then you've really got 3 kids. There's 3 people eating at the table every night, because that hobby, it eats. But how can you actually switch it around in such a fashion where the hobbyist actually brings food to the table? I learned that at a really long age. My dad was involved in racing go-karts specifically. For those of you that have ever been around racing, that's an expensive hobby, whether it's racing cars, racing go-karts, racing motorcycles, or even just being a runner. Even runners themselves. I mean, today they've got, $200, $300 tennis shoes. They've got $400 or $500 racing watches. They pay trainers by the hour to actually teach them how to run. There really is no cheap performance, right, of actually when you're talking about competitive performance. There's no cheap way to do it. Even if you have some of those interests, in my case, my dad was involved in go-kart racing, but what I saw at an early age was actually somebody that learned how to build the carts, built the engines. He actually learned how to set the carts up and know the tires or know how to mix the fuels. And he actually used that to turn it into a moneymaker for him. In that case, his hobby actually started feeding us. And like I said, I grew up with it. There was a lot of things that he did in racing. He was really good at it. He was actually able to transfer that skill for other people. And what that largely led to is it made, as the price of racing even got more expensive, the price is going up to what he's actually getting to do it too. So in that case, it became somewhat of a recession-proof hobby to him, because even as the price might have increased or other things may have ebbed and flowed, he's still making the money from the hobby. So what you want to kind of think about it is we talk about this idea of getting in front of the camera. How is it that you can turn your interest or your hobby into something that you actually make some money from? It actually brings some money to the table as opposed to always being a money sink or a time sink. How can you transition that into something that you're actually offering that skill out? Because when you actually do that, again, that becomes that makes your hobby somewhat, or your interest, your recession-proof background. Because most people don't have interests that they hate. You may have a job that you don't like. You may have a career that turns out it's not really interesting to you. But the interests or our hobbies are things we want to do. How can we largely turn those things from money going out the door to bringing money back in the door? Listen, this is David. We may have a few more conversations on this. May actually take a post coming up shortly, where we take a few people that I know, or I know of, and how they've actually done that. So be on the lookout for the next video in this series. There'll probably be a part 3 coming up very shortly, and I look forward to talking to you guys again. Thanks. Bye.